Hello, everyone. My name is MIyasaki, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my internship experience with the USDA. I'm going to share my screen so you can see this presentation. Okay, so outside of science, my hobbies are playing badminton, writing fan fiction, and a fun fact about me is that I won a World Laughing Contest in 2019. So I'm currently a graduate student at UC San Diego. This building on the right is the place that I work, the Sanford Research Consortium. It's right on the beach, really beautiful, a really lovely place to work. So I work in the lab of Dr. Esther Kwan, where we study nanoscale technologies for brain injuries primarily. We combine nanoparticles and things that help the nanoparticles find their way to the cells they need to target, and disease-specific payloads like diagnostics or drugs. And so we're trying to deliver them to the brain. So our lab has produced things like nanosensors that detect traumatic brain injury, and I'm currently working on drug delivery techniques to get drugs into injured brains. I worked with the USDA between 2013 and 2015. In 2013, I started with volunteer work for Dr. Colin Brent. With Colin, I studied the brain chemistry of Lygus hesperus, these insects that you see on the left. I worked with scientific techniques like high-performance liquid chromatography, column chromatography, and work with live and dead insects. A lot of these techniques I had to learn from scratch, and he was very patient with teaching me. And none of these techniques were things that we had the materials or resources or time to do in our regular high school classroom. So I was able to learn a lot of brand new techniques and learn from the very beginning with those techniques, what to do, how to do it, the purpose of each experiment. And he also taught me to think through the experimental designs, the positive and negative controls, and gave me an opportunity to weigh in on the design of the experiments, even though I was just a high school kid. I returned to Colin's lab as a paid intern in 2014, where I kept working for him on similar topics. I gained a lot of confidence and skills because every time that I made a mistake, and I made a lot of mistakes, I learned how to avoid those same mistakes in the future. And what I really learned is that it's okay to make mistakes. I came into the lab being really afraid of making an error that would mess up data for the whole lab. And what I learned is that mistakes are very okay as long as you learn from them in the future. And that gave me a lot of confidence to keep going into the scientific field. I also learned scientific writing skills. On the right, you can see a poster that I wrote and presented at a research symposium this summer. In 2015, I worked for Dr. Joe Hull in a paid position in which Colin actually paid for, which is the nicest thing that anyone's ever done for me in science. He wanted me to get more experience in different areas than what I worked on for him. So in Dr. Hull's lab, I got to work on molecular biology using techniques like PCR, electrophoresis gels, making DNA constructs. You can see a lot of the products that I made in this box here on the right. And I got to use confocal microscopy too. So you can see some of my plates of bacteria and a lot of the DNA constructs. Working in the lab was also a lot of fun. On the left, you can see a cake that was brought in for Star Wars Day. There are other high school students in the lab. You can see on the right, some of my friends were working too. So it's a very social experience as well. You get to know people really well when you're working in the lab with them. So from the research that I did, my proudest moment is that papers published in 2016 and 2020 used some of my research. And so I was actually listed as a co-author on these papers. All three people who are circled in red here were high school students working on this research. I also did some of the background research for this paper, and reading these scientific papers to learn more about the subject was really difficult at first, but it got easier over time. And this also gave me more confidence moving forward. The mentors at the USDA are all very considerate of their students, and they really want to help you learn and advance for the future. So looking back, working for the USDA really gave me confidence to continue pursuing lab research in college and beyond. I'm in graduate school now, which means that my career is likely to end up centering on science. But advice that I would give to my high school self would be that both that science is a very viable career for me and for you. And also that there's many careers connected to science to explore. Besides research, either in academia or industry, you could work in scientific writing and publishing, policy, education, or even something like scientific or medical illustration. There's a big wide world of science out there, and the USDA was really my door into that big science world. I'm really grateful to the scientists that I worked with, particularly Dr. Colin Brent and Dr. Joe Hull, for their time working with me. And I think it was a really great experience that you should seek out if you have the chance. Thank you very much for listening. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions or want to learn more about this experience. Kate.miyasaki@gmail.com is my email. Okay, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed.